Welcome once again to Along the Rio Grande. I'm George Torok, and I'm sure you all recognize those as scenes from Viva El Paso. And it's a great privilege today to have Mr. Hector Serrano, a drama instructor here at El Paso Community College, as our guest. He's been involved in many college and community productions over the years, and he's going to tell us a little bit about Viva El Paso and tell us about some of the things that we might expect to see in the production this year. Hector, welcome to Along the Rio Grande.
Nice to be here. Thank you very much.
Let's talk a little bit about the origins of Viva El Paso. I understand this is the 23rd anniversary of the production.
Yes, we started the show in 1978, and that was our first time to be at McKilligan Canyon with the show, which is now Viva El Paso.
And the amphitheater is also celebrating an anniversary
Yes, this year they're celebrating their silver anniversary. It's 25 years ago, this July 4th coming up, that the first performance was ever given there at the amphitheater.
Good. Let's talk a little bit about you at first. What is your background? How did you get involved in drama, and how did you come to El Paso?
Well, I was born in Mexico and came to El Paso and studied English at Sacred Heart School in the early 50s. And then I went to Cathedral High School, and after graduating from Cathedral High School, I went to UTEP, and my degree is in speech and drama, all levels education. I don't think they offer that degree anymore, but after I got the degree, I was qualified to teach theater in elementary, middle, or high school. I continued to study and got a master's degree in dramatic literature, so with those degrees, one in the practical aspect and one in the literary aspect, I decided to just jump in and try my hand at theater.
And were you involved in a number of theater productions before Viva?
Oh, yes. I did a lot of community theater work, and of course, when I was a student at UTEP, we did a lot of student productions. But where I really got involved before Viva was in a bilingual theater group, which was called Teatro Los Pobres. And we performed primarily shows in English in the San Elizario and Socorro area. Because a lot of people don't know this, but the very first play that was ever performed in what is now the United States of America was performed here in our own valley, right between Socorro and San Elizario.
And when was that?
That was in 1598. That was with the Oñate expedition. You know, there's a lot of ballyhoo about the first Thanksgiving celebration.
Right.
And I guess we're overshadowed by the first Thanksgiving celebration. But I think just as important is the fact that the first theater performance was done here in this very area.
So there's a long tradition of theater and drama in the El Paso area.
Of course, because it was in Spanish, nobody followed through with that, since the primary language here is English. Right. So many people think that the first theater performances in this country were done in the 1700s in the upper Midwest of the United States.
But it really predates that more than 100 years or so.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Now, I understand that the origins of Viva El Paso is really connected somehow to the origins of developing McKilligan Canyon. What's the story behind that? How did that facility develop?
Well, when McKilligan Canyon opened, it was in 1976 as part of the National Bicentennial Celebration. I think there were about 200 cities who were designated as official bicentennial cities. And the only requirement to qualify was that the history of the city should exceed the 200-year anniversary of the country. And definitely ours qualified. So because we were designated as a bicentennial city, there was federal funds to build monuments or something to commemorate that very significant anniversary of our nation. And with the federal monies, McKilligan Canyon Amphitheater was built. And at the time, there was an employment program called CETA, the Comprehensive Employment Training Act. And several economically disadvantaged individuals qualified for that program, and that was a labor force. So it was really a federally funded project, and we opened on July 4th exactly in 1976.
And I understand there were other productions before Viva was put together. What kinds of things took place?
Well, in 1976, the show that premiered there was a play called El Paso del Norte. Written by Mr. William Hardy, who had been a teacher at UTEP in the 60s and was commissioned to write the play for the amphitheater for the anniversary of the amphitheater, for the first anniversary. And the play was called El Paso del Norte. And it played in the summer of '76 and in the summer of '77 as well. It unfortunately was not met with much success because it focused primarily on the plight of the Spaniards and the deaths and the problems they had coming to this area. So it was not an uplifting kind of show. It was depressing and a little sad. And that's why in 1978, the city council decided to change the show and do something that was more positive, that had more music, a little singing, and that's when I came in and we developed what is now Viva El Paso.
How did Viva El Paso come together? What kinds of ideas did you have for it at first? Was it supposed to be a takeoff from some of the same themes, or was it going to be something very different?
No, the only mandate that I had, and remember the group that I mentioned before, Teatro Los Pobres, that was a group that was originally hired to do the production. And we had been used to performing in Spanish, and the only mandate that we got was that whatever we performed had to be based on the history of the area, which is what all outdoor dramas do. Depending on where they're located, they focus on the history of that particular area. So that was the only mandate, that we discuss, we feature, we focus on the history of the area. And we had about 100 young people, because of the Comprehensive Employment Training Act, that qualified to participate with us as a summer program. So they were not necessarily singers, actors, or dancers. They were just kids that needed a summer job. So we started as a training, sort of educational project. And we started experimenting. We tried the 6 flags that have flown over Texas. We tried to do something related to each of the flags. So the first 2 or 3 years, it was just a loosely based variety show focusing on the cultures that we have here in the area. And then as we continued, then we narrowed it down to what it is now, which are the 4 major cultural influences that we have here. Those being the Native American, the Spanish from European roots, the Mexican, and then of course the cowboy frontier pioneers that everybody, whenever you say Texas anywhere else, you think of cowboys on horses and rodeos and things like that. So, and we are definitely a part of Texas, so that's the last major cultural group that we focus on.
So you were responsible for really creating the production much as we know it today?
Well, no man is an island.
Sure.
We worked as a group and we did a lot of improvisations, the members of the Los Pobres group. And eventually we sort of whittled it down to what it is now. But I sort of guided the ideas and coordinated everybody's efforts.
And were there people involved in researching music or costumes for that?
Yes. Since it was a summer program, we were able to hire teachers to look into the history of the area, teachers to work with the performing aspects of the show, and we had to decide on something that was loosely based on history, because the more historically accurate you are, the more the people expect for dates and persons and things like that. And we didn't want it to be more of an educational show than an entertainment experience. So that's why it is loosely based on history. But we've been very, very lucky and very successful in that approach. When people come to see the Native Americans, they have feathers and loincloths and drums and flutes. Everything that people associate with a Native American, we put into that sequence. So it's loosely based on history, but the dates and the places and the people we mention are accurate.
So it gives you a lot more room for creativity and
Right.
a lot more room for improvisation over time.
Yes, and because it is loosely based on history, we can change it every year, which we try to do to make people interested in coming back to see what's new, what's different. And of course, the actors and the dancers change every year. We can't keep the same ones. So even if it's the same actor portraying a different role, it gives the production a whole new look.
Now, you started out acting in some of these productions and then assisting with production. What was your role? How did your role change?
You have a good memory. Yeah, in '76, when the production that opened, El Paso del Norte, the one that was written by Mr. Hardy, they had auditions nationally. They hired actors from as far away as Chicago and New York City, and I believe there were a lot of monies because it was a federal project for that particular year. Sort of like what happened recently with our celebration of the Quadricentennial. You know, if it's the year, there are more money, there are more sponsors. So they had a lot of money available, and we were blessed with having a lot of very professional people come to the city to do the show. And I was lucky enough to audition, and I got one of the major parts in that show, El Paso del Norte. So actually, I was the one who spoke the very first words at that theater. But as I told you, the show was not very successful. So the following year, I decided I wasn't going to participate. And I think I started teaching summer school or something, because I've been a teacher for all my life. So I'm sure I had a summer job somewhere. But then the second year, in '77, Elizabeth Gadry, who was the managing director of the show at that time, she teaches for one of our public school systems. I believe she's a drama instructor at Bel Air now. She was head of the project. She hired me to come in the middle of the run and try to coordinate the show, to assist the director who had to leave for Dallas. So in the second year, I wasn't on stage. I was the assistant director for the last part of the summer.
And for those last few years of the 1970s, you ended up using mostly local talent because of the funding changes? Because
of the funding, exactly. And to this day, the talent is mostly local, which is unique for our project. A lot of other outdoor dramas audition dancers and singers in our major cities like Dallas and Chicago and New York. But I'm very proud, and all of us should be, that in our own city, we have exceptional talent. So I would say about 85 to 90% of the talent that you see in Viva is local. And the others are like, we work with Ballet El Paso, for example, which is now Ballet in Focus. And they hire some professional ballet dancers from Mexico City. Sometimes they come as far away as the Ukraine. And they're here for the regular academic year. And because we're a summer project, we're able to subcontract with them. So those are the only non-native talent that we hire, people that are here in El Paso for another reason. And I've stuck to my guns, and for the past 22 years, I have been able to find the talent locally without having to go elsewhere to recruit.
Now, I understand that there were some changes in the early 1980s in the way the production ran, some changes in funding, and this caused things to be a little bit different?
Yes. Well, at first we were panicked because we had a lot of federal funds. As long as that training program was funded by the government, we had access to monies in the summer. But then I believe it was in '82 or '83 with the Reagan administration, the funding ceased. And therefore we were forced to hire people based on talent alone, not necessarily on economic need. So although we didn't have as many, I think we went from a cast of 100 to a cast of maybe as few as 45 or 50, because now we had to pay them directly from box office revenues. But this time, in order to get in the show, all they needed to do was to have some sort of talent, to be able to sing, to be able to dance, or to be able to act. So for the first time, that was the criteria for them to participate. So I think, although we lost a lot of the funding, it was a blessing in disguise because we started hiring people based on their talent and not their economic need.
And how did the community college get involved in Viva? How did students from the college start to become part of the production?
Well, I've been with the college for about 18 years now, and ever since I started with the college, the administration here has been very receptive to the idea of students getting credit for working with nonprofit community groups. So we started providing outlets for our students to perform in productions in Spanish and get the theater experience and thereby get credit because I was certified and I was the teacher of record. So automatically when Viva began and we were no longer able to give students a federal grant, we were able to give them credit through the community college. So in addition to being paid for performing in Viva, they were also able to pick up 6 hours credit during the summer months, 3 hours for the rehearsal process, and 3 hours for the performance process. And that's been ongoing since 1983. And we've always been able to enroll students in those credit courses. So in addition to being paid, they get the college credit. Of course, they have to enroll and meet with the college's requirements of being a student. And the advantages of working with the college is that we can hire the teachers for these college students with college funds. So it's been a very fruitful partnership and a great experience for the students.
And I imagine during the regular academic year leading up to the summer, you have an opportunity to check out different students and courses and figure out who might play a particular role. So that gives you a good pool of people to work with.
Yes, and one of the biggest benefits that we have is that the college facilities, if they're not being utilized for academic courses, since we are an off-campus approved project, we can use the dance studio to teach classes, to conduct workshops, etc. So it's been a very fruitful partnership all the way around. My proof of this is that this year we were featured on the cover of the El Paso phone book, and there are 5 characters on the cover, and all of those 5 people are community college students or were community college students at one point or another. So I think
there's a lot of talent that's come out here over the years.
And every year the percentage of students that are enrolled increases.
And this provides a lot of different types of experiences for them, right? What types of careers can students go off into from their experience in productions like Viva?
Well, the other outdoor dramas are different from us in the fact that they hire actors who come to the show and act. And then they hire singers who come to the show and do the singing, and the same way with their dancers. Their dancers come in and just do the dance sequences. We are very different, and I guess because of the way we started as a training program, in that whoever performs for Viva El Paso is not just an actor, but that one individual, be it male or female, has to act and sing and dance. So it's a better training program. It's more difficult to get in because you need to have a little bit of experience in all of the 3 performing disciplines. So because of that, a lot of the people that have worked with us for 3 or 4 years go on to work with the bigger amusement parks like Disney World and Disneyland and Six Flags Over Texas, Fiesta Texas in San Antonio. They're bigger projects than ours because they are open 7 days a week, and they do 2 or 3 shows a day. So the students can make more money, but the training that they get with us is invaluable. They all come back and say, God, had it not been for my experience with Viva, I wouldn't have made it through, say, the summer in Orlando. But we have students in all of the amusement parks that you can think of. We have previous Viva El Paso performers working and making very, very good money.
And they go off into a number of different areas, and
That's right.
in dancing and acting as well.
Not only that, our technicians as well are hired by amusement parks throughout the country. And we have a very excellent reputation now that they know that anybody who comes from Viva El Paso has experience not only in the 3 disciplines, but if they're technicians, they have experience running the soundboard, running the light board, stage managing in the back, doing props, shifting scenery, etc. So as a matter of fact, it's ironic that the people behind the scenes make much more money than the people on stage. And that's because they have 2 or 3 or 4 different shows, which a technician can do, but a performer can't.
And how could other people from the community get involved in Viva El Paso? Certainly there's opportunities for the community college, but
Oh, yes.
What other types of things take place that bring people from outside of the college?
We traditionally have auditions for people that want to be performers in April. This year, we're going to have them on April the 1st, which is the first Saturday in April, and they'll be at McGoffin Auditorium at UTEP. And anyone out there who is at least 16 years old can audition for the show. And they prepare a 2-minute presentation, a song, a dance, a song and dance together. Whatever performing discipline they excel in, they prepare that and perform for the judges panel. That same day in the afternoon, we call back all those people whom we feel have the right characteristics or the right talent requirements for the show, and we have what is called a callback audition. And then they are usually notified by the Saturday before Easter, and rehearsals begin in May. And we always have slots for 50 people. That's what we have budgeted for. And it's very symmetrical. We have 25 female performers, 25 male performers. And they have to be at least 16. I say 16 till death. You know, we don't have a top limit. It's a very strenuous show. We perform 39 regular performances. It's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday for 13 weeks. It's every weekend in June, July, and August. And it's a full-time summer job. And the stipends are enough to where somebody can make good money if they stick with a project for 5 or 6 years.
Sure. And people that are a little bit older get involved in the productions? How old have people been?
We've had people on stage as far in their 40s, and I remember once we had a 50-year-old man who did the part of Juan de Oñate, and as long as they're willing to do what is required of them, to sing, to dance, to act, because nobody comes in just to do a part. They participate in the opening number, in the Native American sequence. They can dress the stage as cowboys in the background. Now, since we have added horses to the show, one of the things that makes a person have the edge over another one is if they're not afraid of horses and they can ride them and they can handle them on stage with lights. So it's a very complicated process, but no parts are precast. We always have 50 slots available at the beginning of every casting year.
And there are some other opportunities in the production as well besides just the actors. You mentioned the technicians earlier. Are there other roles that people can play in the production?
Definitely. We have technicians, we have hospitality people, we have concession people, we have people to assist with dinner service. And what we started doing is we started giving a base pay for their first year and additional increments for every year they come back. So we have performers earning as much as $75 per performance. And we do 3 performances a week, so that's $225 for a part-time job. That's not bad. In addition to that, they can get college credit, you see. And we have people that we need to park cars. We have people that we need to help moving the scenery backstage. And always on that day when we audition, we conduct interviews for the other jobs. And for all of them, with the exception of the technicians, the youngest age is 16. Technicians have to be at least 18 or older because they handle power tools. And the law requires them to be at least 18 to handle an electric saw or things of that nature.
Now, you mentioned earlier that there's a little bit of difference every year in Viva.
Definitely.
And what can we look forward to this year? Will there be a different focus at all, or any things included?
This year we're celebrating the silver anniversary of McKilligan Canyon Amphitheater. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to focus more on the actual terrain where the amphitheater was built and talk about the actual Red Rock Canyon and do more research into the actual history of that particular area where the theater itself was built. And we're even going to bring Mr. McKilligan in to the Western sequence so that people will know who was this Mr. McKilligan for whom the canyon is named. And he was significant in our history in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So we're going to bring his name and his family into the storyline. So
anniversaries and dates like that are important to the production, and a few years ago the quadricentennial.
The quadricentennial, we were able to focus on that, and for the year 2002, when we celebrate our own Viva El Paso's 25th anniversary, that's when it's really going to be spectacular.
And if people are interested in getting in touch with you about this year's performance, maybe auditioning for some of these places, how can they get in touch with you?
They can call the El Paso Association for the Performing Arts at 565-6900, 565-6900, and any day, Monday through Friday, between the hours of 9 and 5, and speak to the receptionist or the secretary and get the information. But the auditions this year are on Saturday, April the 1st, and we begin at 8 o'clock in the morning, and go until 5 in the afternoon. So the sooner they can get there, the earlier number they can pick up, and the sooner we can audition them. And it also is the day for those who are interested in working as parking lot attendants, hospitality crew, technicians to come, fill out their applications, and be interviewed. As far as the non-performing jobs, we hire of about 30. We have a backstage crew of about 15, and then 15 front of house. So it's a group of 80 people that put the show on.
Well, it certainly sounds like it's going to be an exciting year, another year for Viva El Paso. And we want to thank you very much for coming here today and telling us a little bit about the production and the history of the production. And we'd like to have you again on our program. And we hope to see all of you at Viva El Paso and on our next program of Along the Rio Grande. And we'll close with some scenes from recent productions of Viva El Paso. And we hope to see you all on our next program.